You ready for us to start? Good afternoon and welcome to the October 10th regular meeting of the Community Development Commission of Chicago. I am Gwendolyn Hatton Butler, Chair of the CDC. Today's meeting is being held in City Council chambers in City Hall and is also being streamed by the Department of Planning and Development. The agenda for today's meeting was posted on October 6th, both on the CDC website and physically at City Hall. I will now call to order the October 10th meeting of the Community Development Commission with a call of the roll. Commissioners, when your name is called, please respond by saying present. Vice Chair Wheat. Secretary Chan McKibben. Thank you. Commissioner Buford. Commissioner Curtis. Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Gomez. Commissioner Griggs. Commissioner Thomas. Thank you, commissioners. We have a quorum. The first item on our agenda requests approval of the minutes from our previous meeting held on September 12th. The commissioners have had an opportunity to review the minutes, and if there are no corrections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. And I will abstain from the vote because I was not present at the September 12th meeting. Hearing no objections. Thank you, Commissioner Chan McKibben. There have been 2 abstentions, but no objections, 3 abstentions, but no objections. The motion is approved. And we'll let the record reflect that Commissioners Hatton Butler, Chan McKibben, and Thomas have abstained for voting on this item. The next item on our agenda is the appointment of the Assistant Secretary. Article 2 of the CDC laws provides for the CDC Secretary to be assisted in the record-keeping functions of the Commission by the Department of Planning and Development. The bylaws also allow for an Assistant Secretary who need not be a member of the Commission to be elected to perform the functions of Secretary at the discretion of the Commission. Robert McKenna most recently served as the Assistant Secretary for this body, but is currently on leave from his position with DPD. And so we must elect a new individual to assist with the record-keeping functions of the CDC. My recommendation is to nominate Managing Deputy Commissioner Tim Jeffries, who has worked closely with Bob to coordinate our CDC meetings, to temporarily serve in this capacity. Are there any objections or other recommendations from the commissioners on this matter? Hearing none, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Hearing no objections, the motion is approved. Commissioners, today's agenda will begin with one item of old business that was previously held at the request of the Commission at our last meeting on September 10th. In this matter, the Department of Housing is seeking authority to advertise its intention to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with Earl School LLC for redevelopment of the property located at 6121 South Hermitage Avenue in the 63rd Ashland Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project area and to recommend to the City Council, to the Chicago City Council, the designation of Earl School LLC as developer. Tamara Collins will present the staff report on behalf of the Department of Housing.
Thank you and good morning, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Tamara Collins, and today I'm presenting Charles Earl Family Residences and requesting authority to negotiate a TIF redevelopment agreement and designate as developer Earl School LLC, its related entities and affiliates for the redevelopment of Charles Earl School. The school is located at 61st and Hermitage in the 15th Ward's West Englewood community, where Raymond Lopez is the alderman, and is also within the boundaries of the 63rd and Ashland TIF district. The school, which opened in 1897, was one of many schools built to serve Chicago's growing student population in the late 19th century and early 20th centuries. The school served Chicago students for over a century before closing, with several other Englewood schools in 2013. The Charles Earl School building was constructed in 1897 with an addition in the 1900s and was added to the National Register of Historic Places on March 15th, 2021. The existing site includes multiple buildings. In addition to the historic building, 2 additional buildings were constructed to expand the school. This includes a 1974 structure, which includes a mezzanine level and will be preserved for the benefit of this project, and a 2-story annex constructed in 1971, which will be demolished. The development team, Gorman and Company LLC, as developer and co-developer and sponsor the Phoenix Foundation, which is a nonprofit. The architect is Beehive, a part of the Wood Studio, and the attorney is Reinhardt, Boner, and Van Duren. Gorman and Company was established in 1984 and currently employs 450 individuals throughout development, architecture, construction, and property management, and has completed over $2 billion in development in its history in the Wisconsin area. While this is one of 2 projects within the city of Chicago, Gorman has already proven its dedication and commitment to Chicago and the Englewood community through its partnerships and community engagement over the last several years while trying to bring this project to fruition. With more than 140 community revitalization projects in their portfolio, Gorman and Company has experience developing affordable housing and neighborhood revitalization projects. In 2020, Phoenix Recovery identified a need for affordable housing within the organization. And in 2021, Phoenix Foundation, non-for-profit, was founded to seek housing solutions for homeless people during the pandemic, particularly those individuals and families with histories of substance abuse, with histories involving the justice system and other behavioral issues. As a new woman-led BIPOC organization in Chicago, Phoenix Foundation has already achieved remarkable success in their mission to end generational homelessness. The Phoenix Foundation and Phoenix Recovery is led by Sherry Allen Reeves, the executive director. She has passionately worked in the service of others for over 30 years and is a very vocal advocate for the homeless and other disenfranchised people. She serves on multiple committees, including the local Continuum of Care, the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, Chicago Homelessness and Health Response Recovery for Equity. Phoenix will provide all the on-site services for building tenants. The Architect Beehive is a BIPOC-led architectural and engineering design collaborative firm with a community focus. They have designed smaller multifamily properties and has worked with Gorman Architect team to assist on this larger multifamily development. The attorney, Reinhardt, Bonner, and Van Duren, has worked extensively with both nonprofit and for-profit developers, counseling owners, developers, lenders, and investors in sophisticated low-income housing tax credit and historic rehabilitation tax credit projects throughout the U.S. The proposed ownership structure for Charles Earl Family Residences includes Earl School LLC as the 100% owner and has a limited partner with 99.9% ownership interest and a managing member, Earl School MMLLC, with the 0.01% ownership interest. The managing member consists of partnerships with Phoenix Foundation, which has a 51% interest, and GEC Earl School LLC is with a 49% interest. The community surrounding the project is walkable to businesses and transportation. The 63rd Street bus is about a block and a half from the site and runs 24 hours. Other CTA bus lines include the number 9 and Ashland bus and the 50th and number 50 Damon bus lines. Additionally, the CTA Green Line is also accessible at a 63rd and Ashland. The closest grocery store is Go Green on Racine Fresh Market and is about 1.2 miles away. Other amenities include the Inglewood Mall near 63rd and Hofstad and Kennedy King College. Additionally, Gorman is working on a second project in the 16th ward called the Regenerator, which was selected through the city's 2021 low-income housing tax credit funding round. That project is expected to close early next year. The idea for the renovation of Earl School kicked off in 2017 with Alderman Lopez hosting the first of multiple community meetings. The Earl School outreach team is made up of community-based organizations with a long history of building coalitions, multiracial alliances, mobilizing disconnected minorities, and working across sectors and socioeconomic divides towards a greater vision of racial equity and healing. Participants in this process included students and parents of Lindblom High School, Resident Association of Greater Inglewood, also known as RAGE, Teamwork Inglewood, and E.G. Wood. Since 2017, meetings have happened in person and during COVID continued virtually. Meetings will continue through construction and post-construction. Charles Earl residents will be able to organize and guide ongoing operations through a resident council. As stated earlier, the 1897 building was designated as a historic landmark in 2021. The Charles Earl family residence is formerly known as the Charles Earl School, was selected in 2 competitive processes, including an RFP process through CPS and through the IDA's low-income housing tax credit funding round. The proposed project will be an all-electric building and will provide 50 units of affordable rental housing for households earning no more than 60% AMI. The project will offer amenities including on-site property management, social services, laundry and community room, exercise room, and a computer lab. Existing windows and brick will be replaced or preserved to maintain the historic profile of the building. The project is a planned development with 2 current sub-areas. Sub-area A includes the proposed site showing the remaining buildings and the parking, as well as the proposed landscape plan, and includes outdoor amenities such as a play area, an outdoor patio, and grilling spaces. Sub-area B has not been reviewed by DOH and therefore is not considered for financing at this point or as part of this presentation. The project has a total of 50 units comprised of 31 bedrooms, 31 bedrooms, going from 30% to 50% to 60% AMI. There are 22 bedrooms, which also include 30 and 50 and 60% AMI. The Chicago Low-Income Housing Trust Fund under the Maui program covering rents for units set aside for up to 15% AMI range are also included. There are 12 privately funded project-based vouchers from the Phoenix Foundation to cover units up to 60% AMI. And there will be 15 project-based vouchers under the HUD 811 program. Sorry. In addition to the $4.2 million in TIF, the project will be financed with various sources, including $1.5 million in low-income housing tax credits from IDA, which will generate over $13 million in equity, as well as a loan from IDA in the amount of just over $3 million. This accounts for more than 50% of the total development costs. Also included is a ComEd grant as in the amount of $224,000, historic tax credits in the amount of $6.8 million, and $1 million in funding from the Federal Home Loan Bank. The TIF accounts for less than 14% of the total development costs and amounts to roughly $84,000 per unit in subsidy. The project will meet the city requirements as required by the RDA of 26 and 6 MBE and WBE, as well as 50% participation for Chicago residents. The project will serve individuals and families at risk of homelessness with wraparound services from the Phoenix Foundation. And it also encourages housing stability by providing affordable housing units equipped with amenities and support residents and their families. The project estimates to create about 117 construction jobs and 20 permanent jobs, including roles in property management, supportive services, and maintenance. DOH has reviewed the project and requests authority to negotiate a TIF RDA and designate as developer Earl School LLC, its related entities and affiliates as developers for the Charles Earl family residence. This concludes my presentation. I also have with me members of the development team, and we are happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Tamara, can you tell me if Alderman Lopez is in support of this project?
He's provided a letter.
And is anyone from his office here?
We did send an email, but I don't think anyone attended.
Okay, great, thank you. No written statements from the public were submitted on this matter. We can now move to questions. Commissioners, Tamara Collins is here with Ron Kluwer from Gorman and Company, Sterling Gildersleeve and Sherry Allen Reeves from the Phoenix Foundation, and Dion Lucas from Beehive to help answer any questions you have on this project. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can't think of the name of the Earl School LLC, is that for-profit?
It's nonprofit.
It's nonprofit?
Is that correct? It'll be non-for-profit.
Can I ask you to, before you make your comment, to please introduce yourself for the record? Thank you.
Absolutely. My name is Ron Kluwer. I serve as Illinois Market President for Gorman and Company and the developer on this project, alongside Sterling and Sherry as co-developers. The Earl School LLC is actually formed as a partnership between the Phoenix Foundation, a nonprofit entity, and Gorman and Company, a for-profit entity. For the purposes of the tax credits, we are a for-profit, but the main interest in the LLC is nonprofit.
Commissioner Thomas, please.
Okay, I'm not sure I heard whether the owner of the land will be for-profit or nonprofit.
The structure of the project will fall under a nonprofit agreement. However, the project will pay property taxes because we are not seeking an exemption on the property taxes, if there's a concern about that.
And Commissioner, that'll be in the redevelopment agreement that the LLC pays
Structure.
property taxes?
Correct, because the nonprofit also has to be the recipient of the TIF financing as well, so that will also be incorporated into the
Oh.
RDA.
That was my concern. 15% of this is TIF funded. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. Are there other questions from members of the commissioner? Commissioner Griggs.
So last month, we moved this vote to this month. And a lot of the commissioners who were here aren't here today, but there was some concerns around minority participation at the prime level for developers and also on the contracting and architecture side. So I was hoping that, I know we pushed to this meeting so that Gorman could speak more to the partnership that they potentially have on the development side, which is very important, I believe, to me and a number of the commissioners. But then two, also the role of Beehive in the actual project, and then the role of Phoenix, because as we understood it, Phoenix was not a stakeholding member of the JV. They were more of an an entity that was operating the services that are going to be inside of the facility. So, and right now, the way we understood it was Earl School LLC is a Gorman-owned company with no minority or no diversity at the joint venture level.
And I'll let Ms. Ron speak to that, but before he does, I do want to talk about a little bit about what the city's qualifications are and doing, especially for projects that are coming in now
Can
after,
you
our-
speak into the mic, please?
I'm sorry, especially after projects that are coming in now after our 2021 qualified allocation plan. They are all subject to meet the requirements under the QAP, which requires participation on both the developer side and the GC side. The GC bids are still out to bid, but they have gone out to bid and they do understand that a minimum of 3 GC bids, that's just the floor. A minimum of 3 GC bids are required. And we do look for joint participation in that as part of the city's Department of Housing's requirements. But I'll let Mr. Gorman speak more in depth. Mhm.
Please, Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Does the requirement also look at the equity or the ownership?
Yes, it looks at the ownership equity. So you can either be a completely BIPOC developer or you can be a BIPOC-led developer, which is 51% ownership. And that's both on the GC side or the developer side. We also ask that they look at service providers. So look anywhere in your project where you can have participation, minority participation and BIPOC participation. The current QAP and the 2021 QAP requested that they look in all areas to see that where they can get as much participation as possible. This one happened to come through IDA, but IDA also has been, meeting those same requirements as well. But for our financing, when they come in through us, we also look for those type of participations in the project.
Okay.
And so follow-up question for the department. So does this project meet those requirements as you just outlined?
I believe it does, yes.
Right, thank you.
And I am happy to add to that. First of all, to the commission,
Yeah,
I
we need for you
apologize.
to, just for purposes of the record, every
My name
time you
ag-
speak, you have to
sure. My name
reintroduce
again,
yourself.
Ron
Sorry.
Kluwer, developer for Garmin and Company, developer on this project alongside Phoenix Foundation, who is our co-developer. So apologies to the commission that we weren't here last month. My understanding was the meeting had been canceled. And we actually were over at the Earl School doing our walkthrough, and I was here that morning for the zoning hearing on Earl School. So my apologies to the committee. I think we could have put a lot of these concerns to bed and not had them be a concern of the project last month. But I'm here today to offer the following. Long before the 2022-2023, you guys and IDA, I've got to get your dates right. And so I believe those are the dates. QAP came forward, which required the minority participation. We had already made those commitments with the Phoenix Foundation, Sterling, and Sherry wasn't at the table at that time, hadn't been hired yet as their executive director. But we had gone through an extensive process of looking for a partner in the project. We used the Corporation for Supportive Housing dimensions of quality to provide the service side of it. But as we explored the relationship with Phoenix, there was a strong desire by Phoenix to get back into, because Sterling has a long history of housing in under the Phoenix recovery and previous roles he had. And so they wanted to get back into housing. And so our negotiations, our conversations went from there, that they would be interested in both a co-developer role where they would have a 51% interest in the managing member LLC, which they do. And then we would take a 49% interest. They would serve as the co-developer on the project. Because of our experience in the development side, we would be the person or the organization that would help advance the application with IDA because of their minimum requirements for developer experience. And we would be able to fill that alongside Phoenix Foundation so that they could, as we move forward and complete the Earl School project, they could go out and become self-developers in the future. So that was our commitment to Phoenix. So we indeed have a 49% role in the managing membership. They have a 51% role as a BIPOC organization, taking the lead. We are here for the experience and the balance sheet to be able to guarantee the tax credits as well as the other funding sources. Going forward, they will meet the minimum requirements for IDA, and I believe for DOH after this project to self-develop and no longer need us. We're good with that. That's what we came into this for. In addition to that, though, we also found that they had very deep experience in the provision of services. And so we felt it was very important after they passed through the dimensions of quality assessment with Corporation for Supportive Housing, that we bring them in also as our service partner. So full BIPOC-led service provider. They have more than 40 nonprofit providers in the area and are exploring additional within West Englewood and Englewood to provide services at Earl School. So our co-developer is 51% BIPOC. Our service provider is 51%, is all BIPOC, sorry. Our service provider is all BIPOC. And it was asked about the role Dion Lucas plays. I want to back up to 2017 and advance that. In 2017, when we went through the competitive process with CPS to be able to get the school under an RFP, we had reached out to organizations from West Englewood, and Dion at the time, was launching his Beehive initiative, part of the E.G. Wood initiative, and brought to the table Teamwork Englewood as well as RAGE, Aisha from the Resident Association of Greater Englewood. And we sought them out because they had played such an instrumental role in establishing the presence of the closing schools and the future of the closing schools. So they worked with the community in great detail. So Dion was involved from the very beginning as our advocate and advisor on what we learned from the 2013-2014 closings, and then Aisha as well as Teamwork to say, this is what the community wants. So as that evolved and community meetings happened, we explored the additional work that Dion could do as architect. Dion is now our architect of record. He has been an advisor since 2017 until he became the architect of record, and he is also a full BIPOC firm. To Ms. Collins' comments about the general contractor, we had previously selected Powers and Sons, who is a BIPOC-led general contractor. But when the project came back under the last bidding iterative, it was just too much money to complete. And so we came in, we brought all the partners back together, we iterated what it could look like, and it came out as a 50 unit where the 1971 building got demolished. At that time, it was considered a new project and we had to go back out for bid. So Ms. Collins is correct. Our bids concluded last Friday. We did get 4 general contractors who bid the project. 3 of them are BIPOC. 1 of them is a WBE firm. The WBE firm came in $6 million higher than our lowest bidder and about $2 million higher than their next, competitor. And so we are very confident as we negotiate the general contract with a general contractor that it will be, again, a BIPOC firm. That firm, the minimum requirements are the 26% minority participation, the 50% local hire. We have amongst 2 of the firms who responded a commitment to greater than 26%, and that is also very important to us. So as we look at the pricing, we may not choose the lowest, or we may, so long as they would commit to a higher participation rate. One of the things that's important to Gorman and the work that we do is the money that we bring to the table for a development like this strongly benefits the local community. So that's very important to us. So again, I apologize I wasn't here last month to share all that with you, but I'm also happy to answer any other questions. I do believe we also meet the requirements of the new QAP, but we also met the IDA requirements for BIPOC participation. And we're looking forward to concluding this development, as well as the regenerator in Englewood proper. And then also the phase 2 or subpart B eventually on the Earl site, which would be new construction. But that all has to go through the community outreach process that we will start this fall. So,
Thank you for your comments.
no worries.
Commissioners, are there any additional questions? Commissioner Curtis?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to make sure I understand, the organization would receive, is it $2 million for as the developer? Do I understand that correctly?
The developer
Ah.
fee is a little over two, let's see.
And that would be for the Gorman?
It's for the co-developer to split.
Okay. And the Gorman organization would own 49%
Correct.
equity. And there is $100 worth of GP equity being contributed. Is that correct?
Well, if you consider the tax credit equity as well, that they have to syndicate those tax credits. So that is part of the work that they do. So we can, that their participation is $100, but the other equity that comes to the table from them having to syndicate those tax credits is also considered equity.
Thank you.
Commissioner Curtis, additional questions? Are there additional questions from the commission? Given that there are no further questions from members of the commission, I would now like to invite members of the public who are in attendance and interested to speak on this item. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Are there any members of the public who would wish to make comments? Thank you so much for stepping to the mic. Please introduce yourself before you begin. And just so that you know, there's a timer right up there on the wall. Thank you.
Got it. My name is Sherry Allen Reeves, and I'm the Executive Director of the Phoenix Foundation nonprofit organization. And I'm just coming to speak to, as a homeless service provider currently, Ron talked about our history of working in this industry. And currently we are operating a 50-bed non-congregate emergency shelter, right, on the far west side of Chicago and the far southwest side. And what we are seeing and noticing every day is that people often have these life experiences that cause them to be homeless. And we want to make sure and ensure that those individuals who are right now experiencing housing insecurity have a safe place to live in the future. And the place that the Earl School is going to be one of those places, but we know that we need more, right? And in the city of Chicago, we are experiencing a lot of housing insecurity, not only for our residents, but those who are migrating to our city for safety as well. And so this is an opportunity for us to reimagine what we do in this space, right? What we get to do and who we get to be as providers, and looking in it within our communities and looking at our resources and reimagining what that could look like. Yes, we will put those individuals who are in our housing project in the Earl School into permanent supportive housing, but then we can reimagine what it would look like for them to own their own home. Right? Because that's part of the mission of the Phoenix Foundation, is to end generational homelessness. So we can establish a norm for people to become homeowners, to become entrepreneurs, to rebuild the communities in which they are housed in. So we ask you for this opportunity today to just reimagine with us, right? What would it look like for those individuals, those 50 families, to then later on, because now they understand the value of stability and home ownership, to move on and create housing for their families for the next generation. And then we can get another 50 in those houses to do it again. Because if our goal really is to end homelessness as we know it, we have to do it one development at a time, one family at a time. And we're counting on our city partners and our community partners to buy into this. And so that there is no division, there is just community, and there is just partnerships that we work within. So I am so grateful for the opportunity to speak on the behalf of the Phoenix Foundation and the work that we're creating. And we want you all to reimagine it with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make a comment?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cecile DeMello. I'm the Executive Director of Teamwork Inglewood. We are the community group that convenes the Inglewood Quality of Life Plan, which was mentioned by Ron. The Inglewood Quality of Life Plan second rendition started in 2016, had over 600 residents and stakeholders that helped develop the plan, which we currently operate right now. In the plan, in our housing, and even in our public spaces work that residents called out was the need for repurposing vacant spaces. Not so much as redeveloping new homes, but actually using vacant spaces because there's so much that goes with public safety concerns as well as blight and quality of life issues when it comes to vacant spaces, and schools being one of the complaints that residents draw to. So back in, I think, 2020, when I became the ED at Teamwork Inglewood, I restarted some of the community engagement work with some of my colleagues, but of course, March happened and we were, of course, thrown off on some of the community engagement work. We have been redoing some of the community engagement work recently, but also Teamwork Inglewood is one of the co-developer partners for the Regenerator work, which is another project happening in Greater Inglewood around housing in a vacant school. Nevertheless, I think we still have a lot of work to do around making sure that we continue to engage community around the project from the beginning to last. You know, you can engage community at one part, and then if you don't consistently engage with them, they'll be like, wait a minute, I don't know what's going on. So one of the things that Ron has committed to, and this project with Phoenix, is to continue to engage the community in the community engagement process, the potential local source hiring, as well as just the after the building has been open, how do we continue to support in that way? So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to in the project, is continuing this community engagement, this co-developer model that we have kind of created precedence in with not only this project, but the Regenerator project. I still think we have a lot of work to do, but I'm excited where we are right now.
Great, thank you so much for your comments. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make a comment? So given that Commissioner Curtis, yes.
I'm just concerned about the cost of $620,000 a unit for 1 and 2 bedroom units. I'm just wondering, how do we justify $600,000 a unit for a 1 and 2 bedroom unit?
Sure, I can speak to that. So costs have escalated over the last year and a half on these projects. We have seen as much as a 30% increase in the construction industry due to supply chain delays and demands on certain materials. We haven't had GCs over a period of time necessarily hold their pricing like they have been doing historically. But this at $620 a unit is actually a lot cheaper than what you're going to see coming down the pike. We're seeing projects coming in at around 800,000 or more a unit, and we are trying to do cost containment. We do value engineering on things to try to get costs down, but costs are not. We will never see the pre-pandemic numbers again going forward. So this is an unfortunate side effect, but this is where we are right now.
Thank you. It seems to me that that's higher than the marketplace currently for purchasing a 1 and 2 bedroom unit.
Well, that considers the total development cost. There are costs associated with affordable housing that you don't see on market rates. There are reserves and all other things that are required that you won't necessarily see on a market rate deal. So you have to take into the full amount. If you look at just the hard construction costs at 50 units, it comes in at a lot less.
Thank you.
Are there additional questions or comments from members of the commission? So I will now call the item to vote. The resolution before us would provide the Department of Housing with CDC's recommendation to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with Earl School LLC for redevelopment of the property located at 6121 South Hermitage Avenue in the 63rd Ashland Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project area, and to recommend to the Chicago City Council the designation of Earl School LLC as developer. And for purposes of the record, I'd like to correct a misstatement I made when I introduced this item, as this is an agenda item, an item of old business from our last meeting on September the 12th. If there are no objections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Commissioners, are there any objections or abstentions? Hearing no objections or abstentions, the motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, moving on to our next new item of business. Moving on to our first item of new business. The Department of Planning and Development is seeking authority to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with Bandwidth Music Limited for redevelopment of the property located at 134 South California Avenue in the Midwest Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Area, and to recommend to the City Council of the City of Chicago the designation of Bandwidth Music Limited as the developer. Mike Perello will provide a brief description of this on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Michael. Sorry. My name is Michael Perella, Financial Planning Analyst with the Department of Planning and Development. As stated, I'm here before you today with a resolution requesting authority for the Department of Planning and Development to negotiate a TIF redevelopment agreement with Bandwidth Music Limited for the redevelopment of a property at 134 South California Avenue, and with a recommendation to designate Bandwidth Music Ltd. as the developer. I'm joined here today by Annie Palomino, Executive Director of Bandwidth, Bernetta Smith, the Board President of Bandwidth, and Nick Moen of Lamar Johnson Collaborative, who is the architect on record here. The project is located at 134 to 156 South California Avenue. It is located within the East Garfield Park community, West Region, and Midwest TIF District. It's in the 27th Ward. Alderman Burnett, who has supplied a letter of support for this project. Shown here, highlighted in red, is the location of the project at the corner of Adams and California. Highlighted in blue at the corner of Jackson and Francisco is the Marillac Social Center, part of the Marillac St. Vincent Family Services Building, which houses the current location of Bandwidth Music's operations. Shown here is an exterior view of the building to be renovated. It is a 21,460 square foot building that formerly a manufacturing facility for the Loyal Casket Company. Bandwidth purchased the property in May of 2022 for $2.2 million. And shown here is an aerial of the site, just to give additional context. The project was selected from a pool of applicants as part of the Chicago Recovery Grant Program. And Bandwidth Music Limited is a 501c3 nonprofit that has been operating out of the community since 2015. They currently serve over 215 students ages 3 to 18 each year by providing performing arts instruction for individuals and small groups, along with in-school, after-school, and summertime arts programs. The majority of the persons provided with music education are served at no cost to them. Bandwidth intends to renovate the existing building to create a permanent home for its organization. Once complete, Bandwidth's new 16,850 square foot HQ will contain educational, rehearsal, performance spaces, administrative offices, and additional space for support, a kitchen, music library, seating, and flexible spaces for community performances and arts-based programs. As part of this project, Bandwidth has entered into agreement with Deborah's Place, an organization that serves over 600 homeless women a year and provides them with housing and other social services, to occupy 3,100 square feet of the building. Deborah's Place will operate administrative offices for up to 15 people on site and will not serve at the home for any homeless women. Bandwidth also has an executed agreement with Dark Matter Coffee to open a 1,500 square foot coffee shop on site. This will provide a vital commercial amenity to the neighborhood and is sorely lacking services of any kind. And once permitted, the project intends to complete within 10 months to a year. The total project cost is estimated to be approximately $12.4 million. Of those funds, the applicant has secured a significant source, roughly $2.4 million to date, in grant funding and donations. These include large contributions from the Glaser and Rosenthal families, the DNR Charitable Fund, and the DNR Legacy Fund, as well as other smaller grants and individual contributions. In addition, the applicant has secured $1.3 million in funding from Wintrust Bank and expects to close on another $1.85 million in new market tax credits funding this coming year. Remaining funds will come from an ongoing capital campaign that expects to raise an additional $1.78 million in order to complete the project. The department plans to provide $5 million in TIF financing, which is approximately 40% of the total project cost for this project, and it will pay 50% upon completion of the project and another 50% upon closing, or sorry, upon 1 year after the completion. In order to comply with these payments, the developer will be expected to enter into a 10-year compliance period and uphold all prevailing wage, city residency, M and WBE requirements during construction. And shown here in the next 3 slides are final renderings of the project, showing the exterior here, and then a great interior shot as well. This project will be a vital investment into the neighborhood of East Garfield Park, which is lacking of such services and amenities. By creating a permanent home in the community, Bandwidth can commit to providing space for educational and enrichment programs that directly benefit neighborhood use for years to come. This is a priority for the community and referenced in the East Garfield Park Quality of Life Plan, which calls for organizations to provide more educational facilities of this kind, as well as more cultural assets. In addition, this project will ensure that a former factory is renovated and does not go vacant while providing a new retail space along California Avenue commercial corridor. Finally, it will provide home for an established social service organization that provides valuable services to vulnerable women. And finally, this project expects to employ over 30 people and serve well over 300 children per year. And as previously stated, it is endorsed by Alderman Burnett, who issued a letter of support for the project. And yeah. In conclusion, the Department of Planning and Development thoroughly reviewed the project and the development team and recommends a resolution requesting authority to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with Bandwidth Music Limited and to designate them as the developer. Thank you for your time. Myself and members of the development team are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mike. Mike I don't see Alderman Burnett. Is anyone from his office here?
We contacted the alderman to confirm support, but and which he does, but we don't have anyone here attending from him though.
Great, thank you for that confirmation. No written statements from the public were submitted on this matter. We can now move to questions. Commissioners, Mike Perella is here with Ann Palomino and Bernetta Smith from Bandwidth, as well as Leslie Roth and Nick Moen from Lamar Johnson Collaborative to help answer any questions you might have on this project. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My first question is, did we see the floor plan? You went through it kind of quickly.
No floor plan, just the interior here.
Okay, it was part of my packet.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So, are you familiar with the floor plan?
Fairly familiar, yeah.
Okay, so, is there an entrance for for Deborah's Place?
I believe they have a separate entrance and separate facilities as part of this project. Yes,
It's all in the same building,
That's
but it
correct.
has a separate entrance?
I believe so, yes. Oh, they have the architect here who can speak directly to that if possible.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Moen. I'm with the Architect of Record, Lamar Johnson Collaborative. And I'm very familiar with the floor plans as being one of the designers. So yes, the answer to your question succinctly is yes, there's a separate entrance for the Deborah's Place office. It's a separate tenant space that's not part of the Bandwidth headquarters. There's also a separate entrance for Bandwidth itself and the coffee shop.
Okay, so that means that, because it's a separate tenant space, patrons of Deborah's Place are not automatically into the theater portion where the 7 to 18-year-olds are doing theater?
That's correct. The security and access control for the two places are completely separated.
Okay, thank you.
Additional
this point-
questions?
Okay. As part of the contemplated capital raise, any after-school money, like state childcare or after-school dollars, since they're serving after-school patrons?
Not that I was aware of as part of the construction expenses. Perhaps Andy can speak with any of those costs related to operational expenses.
Possibly someone from the developer or.
She's at the
operation-
mic.
Good afternoon. And that was I appreciate your question about
Can you please
Deborah's.
introduce yourself?
Oh,
please?
sure. My name is Annie Palomino. I'm the founding executive director of Bandwidth Chicago. And one more I wanted to add, for Deborah's Place, it's primarily office space, so they won't be servicing clients as well. So I understand your concern and appreciate your question. We receive two, for our operational expenses. We partner with After School Matters, so we're able to provide stipends to our students, and that's part of our funding. We also partner with ICEJA and IDHS, so for our violence prevention funding.
Thank you. Actually, my concern was more about the licensing of any after-school programming with the two sets of tenants
Sure.
and whatever access either tenant has to the other. That was my concern, based on licensing. My last question, maybe.
You have the mic.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Who owns the land?
Bandwidth,
That's a not-for-profit.
that's right.
Will they be paying real estate tax?
My understanding is a nonprofit can apply for tax exemption, through the county.
And we're giving them 40% of their capital stack is TIF money.
That's right.
That's an issue for me.
Well,
I mean, the Department of Housing at our last presentation will have in the PD agreement that the owner of land will pay real estate taxes. In this agreement, you spoke of compliance. What is that?
It's a negotiable, as part of the redevelopment agreement, but, we'll ask them to maintain certain jobs requirements, certain amount of students served every year, and, related items to their activities on site to ensure that the project they're anticipating and the project they're selling us is going to be taking part of that, for at least 10 years.
So it's compliance with the terms of the
Right,
PD
yeah,
agreement.
like their operating agreement and such.
So if we had something in there about paying real estate taxes so that this is actually paying back something on our TIF, if we put that as part of the agreement, they would have to comply.
Yeah, they would have to comply if we had part of the agreement.
I'm going to acknowledge Tim Jeffries from the department.
Hi, Tim Jeffries, Managing Deputy Commissioner. Just to clarify one point for Mike, the nonprofit use that is owned and operated by Bandwidth for the purpose of their nonprofit is tax exempt. But the leases that they will have with both Dark Matter and Deborah's Place, those are revenue generating activities for Bandwidth, and those will be subject to property taxes. So it's the plurality will not be taxable, but portion will be taxable.
So the leases on this property, the tenants will pay property taxes on their portion.
I'm not sure how their leases are structured, but ultimately, yes.
Well, I'm saying it out loud so that it is part of the PD agreement
Uh,
somewhere.
I don't know if it'll be a pass-through like a triple net lease or if it will be an agreement that they have in place, but someone somewhere will be paying the property
An
taxes.
agreement with the tenants will be, part of the agreement with the tenants will
Uh,
be to pay the real estate taxes on their portion of the land.
In some way, shape or form, yes.
Okay.
Additional questions or comments? Commissioner
I
Thomas?
don't think I can pound it any further than I have. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You're welcome, Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Chan McKibben?
I'm curious, this is for the executive director. What are the demographics of your music program?
Palomino, can you hear me? Executive Director at Bandwidth. We serve 98%, we serve the community of East Garfield Park, so that's 90% African-American students.
Secretary Chan McKibben, additional questions? Thank you. Yes, Vice Chair Weed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Allow me to continue to pound into the ground the point from Commissioner Thomas to advise the department to include provisions with respect to the continual payment of property taxes on the land. That's not an indictment on the work that Bandwidth does and the service to the community, but particularly given the significant investment of TIP dollars and the fact that Bandwidth is leasing part of the property to a great retailer and a great organization. But that is revenue that they are allowed to generate, and not-for-profit should be allowed to generate revenue, but imploring on the staff to ensure that there is some payment back in to the roles is important, if nothing else, from a continuity standpoint and to continue development in the region, which is why TIF exists in the first place.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Weed. Any additional comments or questions? Any additional questions or comments from members of the commission? If there are no further questions or comments from members of the commission, I would now like to invite members of the public who are in attendance and interested to speak on this item. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Are there members of the public that would like to make a comment? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bernetta Smith. Not only I am the board president of Bandwidth Chicago, but I'm also a parent of a child who has been in this program since the age of 3, and she is now the age of 17. She attended Learn Charter Elementary School, where Miss Palomino will pull her out of class to teach her music. And my child has benefited from this program to an extent beyond my belief. I am a member of the community. I grew up on California and Polk. I actually attended Merlac as a child myself. And to see it come full circle, this program has literally saved my child's life. When I look at the community that we live in the Austin community, and the violence and everything that it exhibits, my child has developed a different outlook on life. In fact, at the age of 17, her goal is to do exactly what Ms. Palomino is doing, to create a center in the west side, on the west side of Chicago, to benefit youth, because she sees the violence and she has been pulled away from it. She is now a senior at High School for the Arts. And she is planning on attending Howard University. Bandwidth has played a very large part in this. And I see how it also benefits other children, not just my child, other children in the community and outside of the community. We have children traveling from out south all the way to the west side of Chicago to benefit from this program. And it also don't just benefit them in music, it takes the children outside of the city of Chicago. We have taken children to New York, Pennsylvania, Washington, DC. We just came back from a trip to New Orleans. This is things that the children would not normally get a chance to see or do without a program of this magnitude. And I just ask that you guys support it. It is an amazing, amazing program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make a comment on this matter? If there are no further questions or comments regarding the matter before us, I will call the item to a vote. The resolution before us, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking authority to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with Bandwidth Music Limited for redevelopment of the property located at 134 South California Avenue in the Midwest Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Area, and to recommend to the City Council of the City of Chicago the designation of Bandwidth Music Limited as the developer. If there are no objections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Are there any objections or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Thank you.
Commissioners, the Department of Housing has requested to pull our next item of business from this meeting and present it at a later date. Therefore, we will not be discussing or voting on item C of this agenda today. It's C that's being pulled. Or has been pulled. Commissioners, for the next item of business, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking authority to enter into a negotiated sale with Reynoso Insulation Incorporated for the disposition of properties located at 1946 through 1948 West 63rd Street and the 63rd Ashland Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Area, to request alternative proposals and to approve the sale of the property to Reynoso Insulation Incorporated if no responsive alternative proposals are received. Taylor Thompson will present the staff report on behalf of the Department of Planning and Development.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and members of the commission. For the record, my name is Taylor Thompson. I'm representing the Department of Planning and Development. This project is the proposed market rate sale of 1946 and 1948 West 63rd Street to Reynoso Insulation, who are acquiring the two city lots for commercial parking and vehicle access. The two city parcels are located within the 63rd and Ashland 10th redevelopment area within the 16th ward with the support of Alderwoman Stephanie Coleman. Community Development Commission approval is required for the sale of the property located within the redevelopment area. This slide provides an overview of the land sale project. The purchaser is Reynoso Insulation, whose principals are Sylvia Hurtado and Jose Reynoso. They own and operate the adjacent Reynoso Insulation, Inc., which is a city-certified Latino insulation company. Established in 1996, they have been providing various types of residential and commercial insulation services to residents and business owners within the city of Chicago. The appraised value of the two city lots is $42,000, which is the agreed purchase price. The current zoning of the properties is RS-3 with a proposed change to C2/special use or commercial fleet storage. The applicant completed an environmental phase 1 and phase 2 study and has AIS clearance for sale. This slide lists the installation services they provide, serving the residents of Inglewood as well as the city of Chicago. This slide shows the location of the disposition parcels within West Inglewood and within the 63rd and Ashland TIF. The TIF district was created in 2006 and its redevelopment objectives included encouraging private investment and redevelopment of underutilized properties. The above parcel map identifies the two city parcels outlined in red and the applicant's property, outlined in yellow. Aerial map shows the location of the property and where the proposed parking will be developed. This slide is the Google Street View, which shows the two city lots and the applicant's commercial property to the east. This is their proposed site plan. The architect of record is 606 Design and Construction. Plan improvements include 7 parking spaces, 4,500 square feet, new pavement, and landscaping improvements that meet Chicago Landscape Ordinance requirements. This slide identifies planning details, their masonry trash enclosure plan and landscaping notes. The next few slides are truck turning radii to ensure that commercial trucks can enter and exit via 63rd Street. This slide shows the building use of their adjacent property. The shaded areas identify material storage, general use, and office space. And an added site photo for context. In summary, the Department of Planning and Development has thoroughly reviewed the proposal for the two city parcels located at 1946 and 1948 West 63rd Street to Reynoso Installation, Inc. The department has reviewed its public benefits and the project's conformance with the redevelopment area plan. The department recommends that the CDC recommend to the city council the approval for the city's disposition of property. Sylvia Hurtado and the applicant and her lawyer Tyler are in attendance to answer any questions that you all may have. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. I don't see Alderwoman Coleman here, or anyone from her office. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is
that
she
is,
in support of this project?
yes, she is in support. She just couldn't make it today.
Great, thank you. No written statements from the public were submitted on this matter. We can now move to questions. Commissioners, Taylor Thompson is here with Sylvia Hurtado from the development team and Tyler Manick, Sylvia's lawyer, to help answer any questions that you may have on this project. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Taylor, can you go back to the slide that has the landscaping?
Yes. This-
I'm trying to see, okay, which lot is the church that's next door?
So I don't believe that is identified on their
So,
site plan,
A few slides before this, you show,
the aerial, correct.
okay, so D is the church.
Mhm.
And so the landscaping, the greenery, is it on the side of the church? Or is it on the side of,
It will be adjacent to the church. The city lot A is included in the site plan, which is identified in lot 130 here. And
what
lot,
is A is 130?
correct, and B will be 131.
Okay, go back to the landscaping. A is 130, okay. 130, okay. So the church will see trees, the greenery?
I believe there will only be certain planting notes. Let me
Yeah.
see. So there will be certain landscaping improvements that they will see.
Okay, so it'll be next to the church, but it'll be landscaping that they'll see.
Only on the city property, but they should be able to see it if it's coming from the
Well, I don't think they should see the truck.
no, they right.
That's what I'm trying to
So this
figure
right
out.
here, so this is, I'm not sure if this can show a better view. I'm not sure if that can, if that is directly affecting them, the church coming in
Okay.
there, coming in. Okay, perfect.
I think we have a member of the team that is prepared to address this question. Please introduce yourself.
Tyler Manick. I'm an attorney for the applicant. The church has a parking lot to the east. And then they're also the street, and the actual church is the next street over. This parking lot is to the west of the building, so they wouldn't see the trucks at all. Is
Oh,
that the answer
okay.
to a question?
I can't picture it, but
Well, if you
you've
go to
answered
the
my question.
aerial, You could see the, the church is to the right on the screen. Their parking lot is the E. They paved that parking lot currently.
You saying,
So what is D?
So D may be there's not maybe, there's two
D,
different
they-
churches here.
D, they own that.
Hold
I'm
on,
sorry.
just a moment. Department.
I'm sorry, it was to my knowledge that there was two different churches. I'm not sure if they're in conjunction with each other, but Tyler can explain that better. Yeah.
All right, please reintroduce yourself for purposes of the record. Thank you.
Tyler Manick once again. So Reynoso owns D, C. They're looking to acquire B and A. I think that the yellow kind of polka dotted line, that's what Reynoso owns, the grass, the building. Then the red is going to be the parking lot. E, which is east of the yellow polka dot, that's owned by the church. That's their parking lot. Then the church is across the street.
what is D? Shining Light Church, is that a building?
That is a building, correct.
It's
And that's
an
the
empty
church you were
building.
referring to?
Tyler
next to the
Manic
parking
once
lot.
again. It's an empty building.
So you're saying D is empty?
It's a vacant building.
Vacant, okay, so D is, the landscaping will be adjacent to a vacant building.
But the landscaping will be adjacent to the vacant building.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
The vacant church building. Other questions or comments from the members of the commission? If there are no further questions or comments from members of the commission, I would now like to invite members of the public who are in attendance and interested to speak on this item. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. I don't see any members of the public who wish to speak on this matter. So I will now call item D to a vote. The resolution before us, the Department of Planning and Development is seeking authority to enter into a negotiated sale with Reynoso Installation Incorporated for the disposition of properties located at 1946, 1948 West 63rd Street in the 63rd Ashland Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project area, to request alternative proposals and to approve the sale of the property to Reynoso Insulation Incorporated if no responsive alternative proposals are received. If there are no objections, I move passage of this item by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Commissioners, are there any objections or abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Commissioners, that was our last item on today's agenda. If there are no further questions or comments, I move to adjourn the October meeting of the Community Development Commission by the same roll call vote previously used to establish quorum. Hearing no objections to the adjournment of the meeting, we are adjourned.